both you and I have a passion for the future of work and where it's going. And this has led you to investigate this e-residency in Estonia, or in fact to sign up for it. Why is this? What do you see happening out there?
Yeah, so it's very exciting. Actually, what I see is that the current world of work and business and the way we run teams, the way we set up businesses, the way we work ourselves is very much based on an industrial era system, right? Which was like, 8 hours of work per day, 5 people reporting to one manager who reports to another manager, and so on and so forth. All of that is based on work in a factory, technically, right? And work in the next 5 years, or even now, or in the next 10 years, and even more so in the further future, is not going to look anything like it, right? So what's happening right now is we see a shift from work as a place, as a physical place, to work as a experience or activity, right? So that means we see the rise of co-working spaces, of digital nomads, people who can work from anywhere, just have a laptop and an internet connection. You're one of them now, right? We see this idea of location independence and remote work, which means you can work from anywhere. What does that mean for entrepreneurs, right? Because it's simple. When you're employed by somebody and you're able to do your job from somewhere, anywhere in the world, that's easy. But what does it mean when you have to run a company? And what that means is that you're still stuck filling in paperwork, queuing at the bank, at the tax office, in some cases, in some countries, needing to apply for licenses, seeing different, representatives of different government offices, and so on and so forth. And what I've discovered, without having any affiliation with Estonia myself or with the system, is that they are the only country in the world that is trying to wrap their minds around that, around all of these things, and instead of stopping them or fighting them, as other countries are doing, is trying to sort of experiment with it and facilitate it and offer opportunities for people who are transitioning to the future already. So what that means is they're the first country in the world offering an e-residency program, which basically allows entrepreneurs to run an EU-based company entirely online. So you basically are able to register a company in less than a day, and then never need to show up for anything. Right. So never actually visit Estonia if you don't want to. Which I think is pretty amazing. Yeah. The first step to that is to become an e-resident, so become part of this process, so that you're registered and you're recognized as one, and then you can open a company or do whatever it is that you need to do, pay taxes, operate, different things.
But just to be clear, since we're about to go through Brexit, probably, in the UK, a lot of people in Britain will be going, oh, wait a minute, does this mean I can remain an EU resident? But it's not, and sadly...
It's not a travel document.
Yeah.
It's not a citizenship, and it's not a travel document. So what it is, it's access to a digital system. So once again, it's got nothing to do with physical presence, it's got everything to do with location independence. So it doesn't mean that you go to Estonia and open a company. It's actually the opposite. You stay wherever you are and go wherever you want to go, and still are able to run a company. So, so I've recently gone through the process of becoming an e-resident, which means that you get registered with them. You get the police in Estonia does background checks on you and everything, and then you get your fingerprints taken, and then you get this digital ID card and token that you then can connect to your computer. And
who
from
does
there,
your fingerprints then?
you go to an Estonian embassy or consulate.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
So that's the only time you actually have to show up in person.
Yeah. And then you ended up with this e-card thing.
Yeah, so it's an ID, digital ID card that you then connect to a token, to a sort of device, USB device. And then from there you access everything.
Oh, so you plug that into your computer, and then you can, so if you want to set up a company that's basically, so that company is that taxed under European law in Estonia, or?
So the company, generally the tax laws, I'm not an expert in tax, so everything I say needs to be taken with a pinch of salt because it's just a result of my own research for myself. But generally what happens is that if the majority of the work and the leadership of a company is based in one country, it doesn't matter where the company is registered or operating from, you need to pay tax in that country. So now, if you are 3 founders, let's say, living in different places in the world, that becomes a bit murky because nobody knows where you should pay tax. You should pay tax wherever you're a tax resident of. But at the same time, you would be subject to Estonian tax, which has a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs. For example, they tax their tax is 0 for dividends that are not distributed.
Oh, okay.
So basically, if you made money and it stays in the company, you're not paying tax on that, which is great. But I do think that very different countries have very different perspectives on tax, and both, again, personal tax and corporate tax are 2 topics that should be studied differently, right? Like separately. And different countries have very different ways of viewing that, and everybody should be doing their own research in that regard.
So what was your interest in getting an e-residency?
Multiple interests. So first of all, I'm running a company in Indonesia, which is very heavy on paperwork and on requirements and processes and so on, specifically for foreigners. I think it's a great country to live in. It's a great country for finding certain types of talent, and it's got huge market opportunities. But at the same time, in terms of operating a company, it's still quite heavy and quite difficult. So there are certain parts of our business that I would love to move to an easier or initiate on an easier setup. I'm also quite interested in having employees in the EU and collaborators and so on. And once again, if I do that from the Indonesian entity, I would pay a huge amount of tax that never gets to those people or to their countries. So once again, if I set up something in the EU, things would change. And then honestly, just this idea of location independence and being able to run things on the go and never queuing up to, submit what report and so on is really quite attractive. And as we know, I'm a future work enthusiast, so I had to.
Yeah, I know. No, I find it fascinating. It looks quite high tech, this thing, when you've got it plugged into your PC, from what I've seen.
Yeah.